Pardon?
Yeah. See what they say. When they come back and say, you know, this isn't the approval that they step back, we'll get
Good morning. Welcome to the July 27th, 2023 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the agenda today, there are speaker request forms to the left of the dais. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the secretary. At this time, we would also like to ask that if anybody has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. The public hearing on item 1, the approval of the June 22nd, 2023 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting minutes, is hereby opened. All right, Karen made the motion to approve those minutes, and Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2.
Good morning. Item number 2 is 23VA010, which is a variance to reduce the side yard setback from it's not written right, 210 feet in lieu of 25 feet. Property generally described as being located at 1925 Lombardi Drive. Here's an aerial shot of the property. As you can see, it's currently used as a construction company with a prefab building on it. They also have a large concrete parking pad. The property is zoned light industrial district, and future land use also identifies the property as light industrial. Lombardi Drive is an industrial street. It's located near Creek Drive, which is classified as a minor arterial street on the city's major street plan. It's hard to see here, but here's a site plan of the property. The existing building is located right about here. And then there's also this concrete parking pad located here. And this is the proposed construction. Again, we have the existing structure located here and the new building located here to take advantage of this concrete parking pad. They will demo some of the concrete and put this building on that. And with that, for the new building, they're asking to reduce this side yard setback to 10 feet in lieu of 25 feet. A shot of the existing property from Lombardi Street. You can see the existing building on the left and then the parking on the right. I took another shot showing where the location of the existing building or the proposed building would be, and that's located right over here. And then here's a shot coming into the building or into the lot to show where there's a lot of storage area on the property. And so staff, in reviewing this, has determined that there are other opportunities to place that building on the property and still have reasonable use without requiring a variance to the setback. This is a shot of Lombardi Street looking to the east and looking to the west. With that, staff recommends denial of this variance as there is reasonable use of the property and there are opportunities to construct a building of the proposed size on the property without requiring a setback. The applicants are here in the audience. I believe they have filled out a speaker request form or two and they're available to speak, as am I, if you have any questions.
Thanks, Kip. There are a couple speaker requests on this one. If there aren't questions immediately for Kip, I'll go to the speaker requests. Jim Bickett. Once you're up at the mic, just identify yourself and go from there.
Get my glasses on. Yeah, my name is Jim Bickett. I'm the owner of the property. I started Bickett Construction in 1977. We're in our 47th year of business. I've served on the Residential Contractor Board for 14 years. I'm presently on the board for Rapid City Youth Boxing, and I also coach. I have two partners in this endeavor, Tom Warner and my son, Mike Bickett. We all had a a need for some storage. And so we decided on this property, because it already has a fence around it, and we thought it would be safe, secure for storage. Basically, that's all it is for. It's already fenced in and fairly secure. In spending time in placement of this building, we spent a lot of time doing that. We wanted to put it where we want to put it because we already have the pavement there. And it isn't so far down the line to where snow is going to be a problem. So in order to place this building in there without interfering with the daily going on with BICA construction, we wanted the setback. If you use a 25-foot setback, it gets the building too close to the existing building. We have semi-trucks coming in there on a daily basis. We have a garbage truck that comes in and dumps our 30-yard dumpster. I don't know if he'll ever get turned around. We have to back trailers into our shop to load with material and items that we've made in the shop. It doesn't leave enough room to do that. Also, there's a natural swale in the pavement there, and you can see it on some of the pictures, that if we put it with a 25-foot setback, it takes away that swale completely. And then we lose our drainage. Let's see. So for those reasons, we asked for the setback. We absolutely need it to do this project, otherwise we're not going to do it. It'll be too congested in there. It'll interfere with the daily business with BICA construction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bickett. Shane Delbridge.
Yeah, my name's Shane Delbridge. I'm with Hermanson Agee Engineering. We're the engineering firm that put together this application. Just wanted to touch base a little bit and try to explain what I probably didn't explain on the application very good is what Jim said. If we slide that building farther to the east, it starts interfering with that drainage swale in the existing pavement. Could you click back a few pictures? Yeah, sure. Go to the site photo you had. So that one's good.
Okay.
So just beyond the fence, you see that grass little line? That would be the drainage swale that's currently there. If with a 25-foot setback, that would put the building a little farther forward.
All right, up here.
Down in the concrete, or down in the asphalt, right there.
Oh, right
That's
here.
the drainage
Oh,
swale.
sorry.
The building would be approximately, up to that line, maybe within 5 feet of that line. And then by the time you put an apron on the front of the new building to keep it up for water to drain away from it, now we're modifying everything in front of the existing building to try to mitigate water to get it around the building. So that was one of the concepts of asking for this variance, is just to aid and keep the drainage away from the buildings. You got any questions?
I'm not seeing anybody right off the bat, but we'll sure call you back up if they do come up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Delbridge. Vicki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we're looking at alternate locations for this storage unit, it isn't necessarily that it would have to be moved closer to the existing building, but as you can see from this photo, if you look right behind the truck that's parked on the property, if this storage unit was placed behind the existing structure, I believe that's to the south. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kip.
That is correct.
So it is to the south. That's fairly level. It's all a part of their property. One of the concerns when we start reducing setbacks and it's adjacent to a lot line is it can have an impact on what the neighbors can do for future development. That property will, the adjacent property will eventually be owned by someone else, or this owner might want to do something. There's minimum separation requirements between these industrial buildings, and it could have an impact on them. But as this site plan shows, they do own a substantial amount of real estate for their use, and we certainly hope that we can come to a compromise so that we can maintain that safety element at the same time provide them the storage that they need. Unfortunately, the cost of relocating it elsewhere outside of where they have pavement isn't grounds to grant a variance, as you know. So again, the alternate location that Kip was referring to wasn't necessarily just closer to the existing building, but potentially south of the existing building.
Thanks, Vicki. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe I missed it. Is there a dimension on here on the setback of that existing building? Does it fall within that 25-foot span between property line and the old structure?
The current building meets all setback requirements.
Okay. I mean, to me, one option would be to just locate it south of that existing building along that contour line. You keep your swale and your drainage, and you have your turning radius. It's an option, a suggestion. Thank you.
One question I had for staff on this, a concern that we've seen in the past, and I'm not saying the current applicants have that concern, but on locating a building is the intent to have, or I shouldn't say intent, the perceived need to have pavement running to it to access that building. Is there a requirement by the city that they would have to have pavement up to that building? Vicki?
So if they're using it for storage and the storage requires that they bring the items in with a vehicle, then yes, it would have to be paved. If it was just other storage where they're putting materials back there, not necessarily, but in all likelihood, they're going to be driving to that door. But again, the cost of those improvements cannot be grounds for granting a
Sure.
variance.
Sure. Okay.
Again, we're falling on reasonable use, seeing what impact this could have on the adjacent property, and trying to figure out a solution for them so that they get that storage unit.
Mm-hmm. Eric Hikus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two questions. Number one, Kip, the detention basin that's on site, that's existing? It's not an addition?
It's an addition.
Addition, okay. And then does the additional storage space trigger additional parking?
As you see on the site plan here, they would trigger additional parking, but they are providing that within the building itself.
Within the building, okay, thank you.
Mr. Delbridge, did you have something to add?
Yeah. Just going back to the placement of the building, it was in the best interest of the construction company, because that gravel area to the south, the rest of the storage area is currently being used with semi-trailers for storage, and then extra materials from projects. So south of the building, I don't know if the aerial shows it or not, but there's probably 2, if not 3 semis parked in there that are full of different construction materials. You can see it coming south. That 30-yard dumpster that he was speaking about's right there. And then on down to the corner, there's additional construction materials that would be displaced, and then in lieu of setting that stuff up on the asphalt parking structure where we have the building placed, that's coming back around to asking to put the building up front, keep the back for storage, just so we're not disrupting the whole area, because right now bringing it up to drainage standards, that's why the detention pond's now located in the southwest corner to pick up that extra runoff. But I just kind of wanted to explain, the disruptions it would have placing the building any other spot but where we have it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jim would like.
Jim, yeah, come on up.
The south of the building there, we have the semis, we have tools and equipment in there. We have storage in the back. We built a house for the Warners up in Carriage Hills years ago. It's a unique house, and there's different materials from that we're not going to find anyplace else. The shingles for that roof were made specifically for that house, the color. We need to store it so that as they get damaged, we can replace it. We have rock from the side of the building. We have pretty much all the stuff you're not gonna find around here that we can maintain that building with, and it takes quite a bit of that up. So we're using everything south of the building right now. It has a purpose. My other problem with that would be it gets a lot of snow back there, and to plow from clear up by the gate or from the road clear back to there is, it's a lot of work every time it snows. And it's fairly simple for us to just clear off the lot that would be between the two buildings. Okay?
Other questions or comments from the commission on this? It is a tough one. Vicky?
Mr. Chair, your options as presented to you today would be you could approve the variance as requested, and then you would have to cite the criteria that you would be using. You could deny the variance based on staff's recommendation, or you could offer a compromise. Since they advertised to reduce the setback to 10 feet, you could land on an alternate number that might preserve the integrity of the property next door. Just your 3 options set before you.
Thank you. Haven?
I just wanted to know, what's the business on the west side? And since we haven't been provided with any public comments, I assume there was no response from that property owner?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Kip?
we received no response, and if I'm not sure what that building is. I can see if we can see it in the,
Looks like True Green. to
It's
me
Yeah.
True,
on the
it's
picture.
True Green Chem Lawn.
yep,
And we have a good relationship with them. Their building is set up specifically for True Green. So I'll doubt that they'll be moving anytime in the near future.
Haven? Anything else? Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question before we decide what we're going to do is, if you're talking about a reasonable amount of time or amount of length that we can adjust, what would that be? The lot line I'm talking about. Now I'm asking you, Vicky, sorry.
Vicky?
Do you mean a setback?
Yeah, what's the reasonable setback that would be fair to both sides, both parties?
So from staff's perspective, it's 25 feet.
I figured that.
And again, True Green owns that property today, but no one owns property forever, and we don't know what that next use might be or what that expansion might be. But if there is consideration that you wanted to preserve that setback to the greatest degree possible, but not interfere with the swale, maybe Shane could assist us with how much distance they need to maintain to that swale in order to preserve the integrity of that drainage element.
Okay. Then
Yep.
if Shane could come up and give us an idea, that would be a start.
Talking with the owner, 10 feet is kind of what we'd stick with just for the circulation in front of the buildings. It gets it pushed back far enough.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to make a motion to deny based on the reasonable use of the land. And I understand the decisions of the owner and makes good sense from your perspective. I understand that, but I just think for the integrity of what we do up here and for in the future of what's going to happen to those properties, that's my motion.
All right, Karen made the motion to deny as she stated.
I'll second.
And Vince seconded that motion. Eric Heikus, has a comment? Question?
Just a question. So the new concrete apron in the front of the proposed storage building, what's the width of that? That says it's a 470 square foot slab.
Shane?
Yeah, we were cutting out roughly about 5 feet of the existing asphalt to
Okay.
marry back into the finished floor.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion on the table currently is to deny. Are there any other questions or comments on the motion?
Mr. Chair?
Vicky?
Thank you. We certainly hope that the applicants would consider a compromise. We would hate to see them walk out of the room today with a flat denial when there is room for compromise. Is anyone from the property?
There's always the option to continue this for a couple weeks. We do have to re-notify, so I don't know the exact timing. Mr. Delbridge?
Yeah, we would bump from 10 to 12. Gain 2 feet on the setback, so.
All right, anything else from the commission? Okay, so the motion on the floor from Karen is to deny. Seeing no other lights, we'll take a vote on that. All those in favor of denial, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Aye, or no, sorry. I think it was just Eric and I voting against the motion. Was that correct? That leaves it, I think it passes at that, or the denial passes at that point. Right?
7-2, the variance is denied.
All right. Item number 3.
Yeah, item number 3, 23 VA 011, is a variance to reduce the front yard setback to 10 feet in lieu of 20 feet for an accessory structure. Here's the site. This is 1706 Pevins Parkway. It's going to be 3.17 acres of park forest zoning, as you can see here. Future land use as it is forest conservation. Major street plans has Pevin Parkway as a local street. Here's the site plan. The applicant has submitted a variance request to reduce the front yard setback to 10 feet in lieu of 20 feet for a detached garage within the front yard setback. They're proposing a 24 by 24 foot detached garage, which will be 576 square feet. It's being located northwest of the existing driveway on site. The proposed detached garage will be located 10 feet from the property line, where 20 feet is required. As stipulated in the ordinance, accessory structures are required to be set back 20 feet from the front yard property line in the Park Forest zoning district. Therefore, a variance is required. As highlighted in the staff report, staff finds that the variance request meets none of the criteria for approval. A garage 10 feet from the front yard property line is a use otherwise not found throughout the Park Forest district. There is 984 square feet of existing garage on site. Therefore, reasonable use already exists. Minimal adjustment, such as expanding a single car stall or carport over the existing concrete pad to the north, exists without granting of a variance. There are no special circumstances or conditions on site that aren't common within the Skyline Pines subdivision or the Park Forest District. Granting of the variance sets precedent for future structures in the front yard setback. This variance is not in harmony with the characteristics of the neighborhood and is harmful. Engineering has also stated a structure 10 feet from the property line may be detrimental to future road improvements along Pevins Parkway. With that being said, staff recommends denial. I'll go through some site photos for you. So here's the elevations they've proposed. This is previous work the applicant has constructed. This is the existing site. This is that concrete pad I was talking about. expanding a single, a carport or another single door over there for reasonable use. Here is looking south on Pevins Parkway. Here's looking north on Pevins Parkway. This is where the garage would go. There's the required signage on site. The garage would also go here. This tree would be removed to make way for the expansion of the driveway. As you can see, the site slopes drastically from west to east. That's very common in the Skyline subdivision. Here's that concrete pad I was also speaking of, where you could expand the garage, get another stall. This is where the garage would go. Again, this tree would be removed, driveway would be expanded out. Another shot of where the garage would go. Yeah, applicants in the audience, and so am I, if you guys have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Vicky?
just to put you on notice that when you get to the Planning Commission agenda, there is also an item from this applicant to allow an oversized garage, since the square footage of the existing garage in this garage triggers that requirement. And we'll review that when we get to that item, but wanted to put you on notice of that.
Thank you. Eric Hikas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I'm about to say is going to disclose a possible bias on my behalf on this project. I wrote the covenants for this. I also laid out the subdivision years ago. I believe the intent of Park Forest's density and scale in this setback was never intended for a 10-foot front lot setback when a garage that close to the street. I do believe it goes against the integrity of that neighborhood as well. So you can take my comments as either unconditional bias on this one or the author of the subdivision. So this was back with Wiss Associates. Thank you.
Vicky?
Alex, could you go back to the picture of the home? It is such a beautiful home that shows where the carport is, or the pad to the side. So there is a concrete pad right now that would allow for a one-stall addition onto the existing home. And looking at it, even though that doesn't give them the 2 additional stalls, from a reasonable use perspective, that addition would fit nicely and still preserve that front yard as set forth by the Park Forest District. And when we looked at it, both from a land use and from engineering's comments about impact on the street, it seemed like that would be a good compromise. But obviously, we'd like to hear from the property owner to see if that's an option for them.
As it stands for this application, though, I mean, that would be a whole separate process, right?
Well, it would then, the variance would not be required, so it could go away.
Okay,
The conditional use permit would go away as well. They would be under 1,500 square feet.
gotcha. I'm guessing you're the applicant?
Representing, yeah.
Okay. Would you like to add something to this? Please identify yourself once you're at the mic.
Hi, my name's Skylar Massey. I work for On Point Construction, and I'm representing the homeowner here. The main thing that triggered this new build for the homeowner was storage. They did mention that the house itself, while it is beautiful, it doesn't have, the amount of storage you would think it would have. They do have the need to park a boat, so a single stall garage I don't think would satisfy that need. And they have children growing up that are getting into cars, so it would offer boat storage, additional house storage, and future cars to be in the family. And also, I think we could build the building with the setbacks. However, the topography of the land, Alex mentioned, it just got such a severe slope that you end up with a 15-20 foot foundation to get to where you need to be to build the building. So I had the concrete foundation guy over, and his urge was to get in a variance for a 10-foot setback to get it as close to the street as possible so that our foundation didn't get out of control.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to agree with the former presenter, which was very good. I appreciate that. I think the idea of this whole subdivision, and I've gone through there numerous times just to look it over the years, and it is beautiful out there, and what a perfect place to live. And you're in the trees, and all the homes are nice, and if you move this garage further towards the street, it kind of stops that flow of all the rest of the homes up there. And I'd hate to see that change, because I think once you change one person's, it could trigger somebody else, and there'd be a precedent set that other people could do the same thing. And the topography is really steep, but that's part of the uniqueness of this whole area. So my thoughts are to deny this, but we'll wait and see if anybody else has any further questions.
Thanks, Karen. Anybody have anything to add on this? Haven?
One of the aerials seems to show something that I can't identify, just on the north side of the house, on the left as you look at it from the street. And yeah, that one, there seems to be an opening there on the north side of the house, above the house. I wanted to know exactly what that was. And secondly, was the intent to access this new building off the street or off the existing pad in front of the house?
Mr. Massey?
As far as the opening goes, I don't know what the opening is. I know that it's significantly lower than the house. It's almost there's no way you could drive a car down there if you built a dwelling down there. To answer the second question, we would tie into the existing driveway.
Mr. Chair?
About where that white car is sitting. I mean, it'd be in this side of that white car, and we would just tie into the existing driveway. There'd be no new approaches to the street. And if you go back to the retaining wall, just to clarify where this building would be sitting, that retaining wall is about 10 feet from the property line. So if you go back one more. So maybe one more picture. Yeah. So basically the building would be on that one right there. So that retaining wall is approximately 10 foot away from the property line. The property line is a couple feet in on the grass. So while you think of 10 feet not being very far, the property line's actually 8 to 10 feet from the street. And I'm not saying that changes anything. I'm just giving you an idea where the building would be sitting.
Haven, I'll chime in. I think what you're seeing is the line created by that retaining wall, as well as the grassy area behind that's not tree covered in the picture you're talking about. Any other questions, comments, thoughts on this? Motions? Karen?
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to deny this variance because I believe that there's a reasonable use of the land, and it would set a precedence, and I guess that's enough.
All right, Karen made the motion to deny, and I think Mike Quasney was in for the second. And just a short comment, I think getting into the front yard setback is a bad precedent to set, especially on thin roads like this that don't have a sidewalk, doesn't appear to have any sort of storm drainage on it. There's going to be something that happens to that road in the future, and it may expand. Anyway, motion on the floor is to deny. Any further comments on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is 23 VA 009, which is a request to approve some variances on this property located at 604 Lemon Avenue. Here's an aerial photograph of the property. As you can see, it's located between North 2nd Street and Lemon Avenue and between North Street and Madison Street. This aerial photograph shows multiple structures upon the property. However, the majority of those structures have been removed, leaving only a single-family residence on the property at this time. The property is zoned medium-density residential district, and the future land use is urban neighborhood. The major street plan identifies North Street as a collector street with Lemon Avenue, Madison Street, and North 2nd Street as local streets. This shows the proposed site plan of the property, and so the variances in question are to reduce the side yard setback abutting a street from 20 feet to 10 feet on Lot A, which is located right here. To reduce the rear yard setback from 25 feet to 11 feet on Lot E, which is located right here. And to reduce the front yard setback from 20 feet to 11.41 feet on Lot E, which is also located right here. Some things to note on this property is that there are currently 9 lots, platted lots on this property. They're proposing to consolidate those into 5 lots as shown on the site plan to provide the additional structures that are shown on the site plan as well, while retaining the existing single-family home that's located right here. So in reviewing this, staff had some of the following findings. That there is reasonable use on the property, however, that single-family and multifamily homes are allowed in medium-density residential, and they are permitted uses, so it does not go against the land use in the particular district. There are 9 lots that do not meet the minimum size regulations in the medium-density residential district, so by consolidating those into 5 lots, they will then meet the minimum lot size requirement for medium-density residential. And in order to preserve that single-family structure on the property, there were some considerations made in the design of the lots, which require the setbacks. And the purpose and intent of the side yard setbacks is to maintain separation from the structures. The only separation that would not be maintained is between these buildings. Normally it would require a 20-foot separation, and this would provide a 15.77 foot separation between the 2 buildings. As far as the rest of the variances go, so for this side yard setback located right here, it is below the required 20 foot. However, there is excessive right-of-way in Madison Street. It is much wider than normal, so that the actual setback does not impact the roadway at all, this reduced setback. And the same goes for this reduced setback along North 2nd Street, which is actually a gravel street and is used more as a driveway than it is as an actual street. And this rear yard setback as well, and that is just because of the unique lot configuration to try to preserve the existing single-family home while meeting as many setbacks as possible. I would like to point out that even with this reduction in front yard setback, the setback to the garage does meet the minimum 20-foot requirement, so that if a vehicle is parked in front of the garage, it will not encroach into the right-of-way. Some of the recommendations or findings that would support denial would be that it's currently developed with a single-family property, so reasonable use of the property does exist. And the property is 0.79 acres in size, and there would be opportunities to reconfigure the lot such that they would be able to meet setbacks. However, as I stated before, in an effort to retain the single-family home and then provide as much housing in this neighborhood at an affordable price, which is really needed in this city, we have found that this does kind of support that. I can show you some site photos as well so you get a little better idea. So here's some pictures of the existing single-family home that's located on the lot. It is a 2-story home, which requires an additional side yard setback from the 8 feet to the 12 feet. Here's some drawings of the proposed structures that will be placed on the proposed lots. As you can see, they're relatively modest houses with a garage, and therefore should be providing some affordable type housing. And some other elevations of the houses. Some site photos. This is looking to the northeast into the property with the existing single-family structure. As you can see, the other structures have been cleared off the property. And this is looking to the front of the single-family house off of Lemon Avenue. This is looking to the east along North Street, which is a collector street. And this is looking to the west along North Street. This is North 2nd Street. Like I said, it's a gravel roadway right now. It's used more as just a driveway for the existing single-family home. Another single-family home would take access off of this, as well as the property to the east. This is to the rear of the existing single-family home. You can see here where they have removed the structure that was there, or in the process of removing that structure that was there. And this is another angle looking in. This is looking to the southwest. And then this is looking to the I'm not sure where this is. Southeast, thank you. Got a little confused there. And just wanted to show you this one. I kind of zoomed in on this. You can see the proposed property stake right here, which would show the setback to the existing single-family home from that proposed lot line. So with that, staff does recommend that the side yard setback be approved based on the following criteria. That single-family homes are a permitted use in the medium-density residential district, and the request does not grant a land use otherwise excluded in the district. That the lot designations and setback requirements constitute a special circumstance that does not apply generally in the district. That there is sufficient separation from the proposed buildings to the adjacent existing single-family dwelling, and that is in harmony with the general purpose intent of the regulation. And that excess right-of-way exists for East Madison Street and North 2nd Street, and thereby reducing the setbacks to these streets does not appear to be injurious to the neighborhood. I'm available for any questions, and the property owner and consultant are available in the audience if there are any questions for them.
Thanks, Kip.
Mr.
Vicki?
Chair, yes, thank you. Kip, could you go back to the aerial?
Sure.
So as I hope you've heard this morning, when we get a variance application in, we really do try to sit down with the applicants and find that compromise so that we are giving something, but yet we're maintaining the setbacks or whatever the variance request might be for safety purposes and minimizing the impact on the adjacent properties. In this situation where we've got 9 lots that could today support a very small single-family home on each lot, to raise that existing development where we are now coming back with 5 homes, the one existing and then 4 additional ones. We sat down with them and they have revised their lot lines numerous times because they are replatting this as well into 5 lots, trying to find where that compromise is. The reason I asked Kip to put on the aerial, if we can go back to it, thank you, is so that you can truly see that reducing the setbacks to Madison and to North 2nd Street, those have limited traffic on them. They really are functioning more as driveways to a very small area of our community. And so in ensuring that we are promoting infill development, and luckily these happen to be affordable units, putting housing in North Rapid where it's desperately needed, we thought this was a good compromise, preserving safety and ensuring that this property is being used to its maximum capacity while maintaining that safety. If you've got questions for us, we're here to answer them. I know we've been bringing you different recommendations today, and we want to make sure you understand our analysis on it.
Sure. Thanks, Vicki. Karen?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I do have one question, Kip. On the layout, it shows the 4 structures. Yeah, there. 4 structures that are proposed to be built. Is that what those are?
Correct.
Okay. So the house on the front of that one lot is Lot E. That's the current house that's there, right?
No,
No?
I'll identify that for you. The current structure is located on Lot D, which is located right here.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Lot D. Lot E is located right here. So we have these 4 proposed structures, and then this one existing structure.
Okay, I'm confused because I was thinking that Lot E was that whole big triangle-looking square at the front of the East North
Yeah,
Street.
The lot line goes right here
Okay,
between
I-
Lot D and Lot E.
Good, that's what I just didn't see the lot line and didn't know how that was gonna be separated out. This area is a really old area of North Rapid, and some of those the houses that were there were very old, and I've seen that current house that's there before, and they've done a lot of changes to the house to make it look really nice. And I think to have this type of housing right there will be perfect, and I just think it's a great idea that they've worked with the staff to make sure that it works to the best of their ability and for the city both. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I might add, when I was out taking site photos, one of the adjacent property owners came out to talk to me, and he was in full support of this and wanted to see some better redevelopment on this lot as well.
Eric Hikas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I love this plan. It's innovative. It's got a really nice neighborhood feel. I agree with Vicky. These are affordable housing options, and they're intergrained within an existing infrastructure. And it's actually really cozy and nice. I think people who live here are going to really enjoy these homes, and it's appropriate. Good work, AE2S. This is nice work. Applaud it. So I'm going to support this.
All right. Mike Quasney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ditto to Eric's comments there, Karen, some great comments. And I think this is a good use of this area, and I will be supporting it. I think that when you have options like are shown up here, I think it's good that we do make some adjustments so that we can put housing like this in these places. So fully supportive of this. I think it's, with this neighborhood, I think it'll be a great addition. And so I guess I would make a motion, with that said, to support citing the single-family dwellings are permitted using medium density. The lot design and setback requirements constitute a special circumstance. Does not apply generally to the district. There's sufficient separation from the proposed buildings to the adjacent existing single-family dwellings. The request is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the regulations. Excessive right-of-way of East Madison and North Street, reducing the setback to these streets does not appear to be injurious to the neighborhood. The only other thing I guess I have a question on is the street itself. Is it going to be paved when it's done?
Kip or Vicky?
Madison, is that going to be paved?
Madison's paved right now.
Or the other, for Lot E, so that will not have a paved?
Mr.
Vicky?
So it is not triggered that the street be improved as a part of securing a building permit for a single-family home. And it currently is currently serving as access to the home to the east of the property. It will serve as access to the home to on Lot E. It won't serve as access to any of the other homes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave it as I have then.
Okay. Mike Quasney made the motion to grant the variances for side yard and rear yard setbacks as noted and cited his criteria. Is there a second to that motion? Eric Hikas seconded that motion. Alicia.
I'm not a voting member today, but I guess one question that I had around the neighborhood feel is, I'm not sure if I missed it, but it's a little bit hard to tell the character of the neighborhood without seeing the floor plans. I think that would just help for future, or seeing what the landscaping plans might look like and what the feel would be, like how they're oriented and where the doors and windows are, looking to understand better what the neighborhood character might, we saw some example, elevations, but I think seeing it in context with the 4 sites would be helpful, just to understand what it might feel like in the future.
All right. Vicky?
Just to put Planning Commission on notice, landscaping plans are not required as a part of single-family residential. We do appreciate, though, that they did provide an elevation of what the one-story single-family homes would be and lock them down onto those lots, specific to where they're going to be located. Beyond that, we won't get anything more with the building permit either. Single-family residential, it's somewhat of a get out of jail. There's just, we don't hold these to the same standard as a commercial or industrial development.
All right. Councilman Roberts, or Council President Roberts.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. Sorry I was late today. Jesse is going to be gone for a couple of meetings, so I'll be here for the next few meetings. I did want to come to this one, even if I wasn't up here on the dais, because this project is very important to me, of course, because it's in my ward, and because I've been working with the people that are doing this project. For us on the council for the last few years that I've been on there, we've been talking a lot about infill projects. And this is a wonderful infill project. So I just want to give you a little background. 12 years ago when I got on the city council, this was one of the highest calls to service blocks in the entire city of Rapid City. And we have made huge progress in the last 12 years up there. But one of the things that we need is we need these houses to be either rehabbed or a project like this having new homes, which is a lot better than rehabbing them, because it brings a different person to the neighborhood. One of the things that we're seeing up there that really helps the neighborhood evolve is a lot of the rental homes are becoming single-family homes, and that helps a lot. So I'm very excited about this project. I'm very happy that everybody, it looks like, on this board is in favor of this, so I didn't have to try to convince you what a great project this was. But again, I'm just excited to see this go forward. This is something that's important for Rapid City because of the affordable housing, and also especially for that area. So thank you very much.
All right, any other comments on the motion to grant the variances and setbacks? Eric Heikes.
So Alicia, your comment about landscape, that sort of thing, making the assumption here, but there's a number of existing trees on the property, and it looks like some of those are going to be preserved in the process of developing this. It looks like, at least on the, I'm making an assumption, but.
All right, Alicia, I still have you up. Do you have a further comment on this?
Good, thank you, though.
All right, any other comments to be made on the motion? Haven.
I just want to go back to the issue of improving North 2nd Street, which provides access to one of the new homes. I think, Vicki, you mentioned that that was not required to be paved. I'm aware, I believe, that the driveway into a home is required to be hard surfaced. So I'm surprised that there isn't a requirement to improve North 2nd.
Vicki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the ordinance requires that the first 50 feet of a driveway be hard surface, paved or concrete. We have a lot of gravel and dirt streets within the city limits. And some of them, there isn't development on all those residential lots. Sometimes someone will buy a residential lot and they will take out the existing home and build a new home. Per the city's ordinance, single-family residential homeowners are not responsible to make that public improvement. That would be completely cost prohibitive and would prevent someone from improving a lot or bringing development to a vacant lot. If they were subdividing in such a fashion that it triggered subdivision improvements, then they would need to improve that street. But currently they're going from 9 lots to 5 lots, So with that decrease of density, they can utilize the lot line adjustment plat, which then says that they do not have to make those improvements. Because remember, today, they could come in for multiple building permits, one for each lot, and it wouldn't require the improvement. So at this point, we don't have a requirement for them to improve it. Where it's only serving as a shared driveway to 2 lots, I don't see the city making that improvement in the near future as well. And we have this situation in multiple locations around the city.
All right, other questions or comments before we take a vote? Then the motion from Mike is to approve the variances as listed. All those in favor of approval of the variances, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That's our last item on zoning board of adjustment. I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Vince made the motion. Karen seconded. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. All right, we will now commence the Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for July 27th, 2023. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, just a reminder, you can fill out a speaker request form. They're located on the table along the left wall. Hand it to the staff over there and we'll get you recognized. If you still haven't turned off a cell phone or any other electronic device, please do so now. Items 1 through 5 have been placed on the consent calendar today and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the city council. The city council will make the final decision with the exception of the following item. Item 5, 23 PD 017. The Rapid City Planning Commission's action on this item is final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 5 that staff would like to remove? Are there any items 1 through 5 that any audience member would like removed for separate consideration? And are there any items 1 through 5 that any planning commissioner would like removed for separate consideration? The chair would then entertain a motion to approve to approve the consent calendar, items 1 through 5, in accordance with the staff's recommendations.
Motion to approve items 1 through 5 in accordance with the staff's recommendations.
All right, Vince made the motion to approve and Brooks seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.
Thank you, Planning Commission. Since 23 VA 011 was denied, I think the applicant has wished to continue this for 2 weeks till the August 10th Planning Commission agenda. Vicky, if you want to help me out here.
Vicky?
Yes, so Alex had an opportunity to visit with their representative after the variance discussion, and they are considering attaching the garage to the existing structure, which would then preclude the need for a variance, hopefully. It may still trigger, though, the oversized garage, but we need that site plan. We need to see what that elevation is going to look like, and hopefully we can be bringing forward an alternate recommendation at that meeting.
All right. What's the date on that meeting?
Well, we say August 10th, but it's going to have to go to the August 24th meeting. They need to submit the information. We need to route it for review. We are not going to get that done by the 10th. So
Okay.
August 24th.
I move to continue this meeting, this agenda item to the August 24th Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. Karen made the motion to continue to August 24th. Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It's continued to the 24th. Item number 7.
Yeah, 23 UR 022 is a conditional use permit to allow an oversized garage. The applicant has submitted a conditional use permit to allow an oversized garage at 4782 Cliff Drive. The property consists of 1.5 acres zoned low-density residential. The future land use shows low-density neighborhood. Major street plan shows Cliff Drive as a collector. Here's an aerial of the site. Here's a site plan. The existing house consists of 3,256 square feet with an attached garage of 900 square feet. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing shed on site and construct a 768 square foot detached garage. The garage's peak will be 14.4 feet in height. The garage will not be used for commercial purposes or a second residence. As you can see from the site plan, this is where the 24 by 32 proposed garage will go. Here's an elevation of what the garage will look like. Here is Cliff Drive looking south. Here's Cliff Drive looking north. Here's the existing house on site. That's the existing, I had it labeled as shed, but that's the existing structure that will be demolished. There's the paved driveway to access. There's the paved driveway to access Cliff Drive. Previously, Planning Commission approves oversized garages when they're recessed from the principal structure, the material matches the existing single family, and screening and buffering is provided. The applicant has provided all three. Staff recommends approval. The applicant and I are in the audience for any questions. Thanks.
I've got one question, and this is just, I don't have any issues with this application. I'm kind of splitting hairs here, but on that survey, the lines showing the back corner of the garage were kind of diagonal versus what we would really consider setbacks. On that south lot line, do we have the traditional setback there?
Give me one sec. Yeah, I got you. There we go. Yeah, it's 16 feet from the south.
Okay.
Yep.
And that works for, I think an accessory structure can be less on a rear yard
So that would
or
actually,
a side yard.
right,
Sorry.
yep. So in this case, side and or rear yard setback for an accessory structure that sets back more than 90 feet can be 5 feet. If it's a platted lot with an 8-foot minor drainage and utility easement, then it has to maintain an 8-foot setback.
Okay.
And they meet it either way.
Again, sorry to split hairs.
That's
but-
okay. Yeah, that doesn't look like a real squared structure though, does it?
Any other questions, comments on item number 7? Karen?
I think because of the topography that's out there and where it's located, that garage would, oversized garage would not hamper anybody from seeing it or driving by and go, well, that's really big. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve this item with stipulations.
I'll second it.
All right, Karen made the motion to approve item 7 with stipulations. Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 8 is 20DPD 19. This is a final plan development for the Hope Center to be located at 630 East Boulevard North. We are recommending that this item be continued to your August 10th Planning Commission meeting. We'll be bringing forward a recommendation at that time.
All right. Okay, Mike Quasney made the motion to continue to August 10th. And Mike Gallagher seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Eric Heikes.
I'm going to be abstaining from this item,
Okay.
just for the record.
All right, any other comments? All those in favor of continuing, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries with Eric Heikes abstaining. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is a final plan development overlay to allow 90-unit apartment complex at 860 Valley Drive. This development will be known as Phase 2 of Moonlight Apartments. Phase 1 is under construction, is located directly south of this property. The property is zoned medium-density residential district. The future land use is urban neighborhood. The property is accessed by Valley Drive, which is classified as a collector street on the city's major street plan. A traffic impact study is required for any multifamily residential development with more than 150 dwelling units, and there'll be 180 dwelling units with both phases. The Public Works Department has administratively waived the requirement for a traffic impact study. This is the submitted landscaping plan. 6 15-plexes and 3 detached garages are being proposed. Each apartment building will consist of 3 studio-style, 6 one-bedroom, and 6 two-bedroom units. This is the open space plan. Open space is provided by the grassed area surrounding the buildings and exceeds the minimum requirements. These are the proposed elevations. The apartments will be 3 stories or 34 feet in height. The exterior will be finished with earth tone lap siding and composite roof shingles. On the site photos, public notice was posted on the property. This is looking north along Valley Drive and the south view as well. Staff is recommending that this item be approved, subject to the stipulations outlined in the report, and I'll stand by for any questions.
Mike Quasney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know that we can't require playground, but a lot of the developers have done this, and I don't see anything here. Is there anything included in this one?
No, unfortunately, there's no other amenities other than that grassed area for the open space. There isn't any playgrounds that are being proposed.
Where is the nearest, do we have any kind of parks close to this, or? I guess the big thing I'm really trying to get, a lot of the developers that started, excuse me, started to include this in their projects, playground areas, an area for the kids to play and do things that kids do. And I just hope that the developers always keep that in mind, and if we can any way, as a planning commission, help them, support them in doing this, that's truly what I bring it up as.
Mr. Chair.
Vicki?
So, thank you, Mike, and thank you for recognizing that we can't require it. We always encourage it. We typically do see them with our larger apartment complexes. This one's 90 units. We brought so many forward to you that are 300 plus, and usually always in those there's a community room, an outdoor play area, maybe even a swimming pool. This one's pretty basic. They're trying to get as many units as they can, but they are exceeding the required open space. But thank you for your comment, because the day may come when we bring forward an ordinance amendment requiring some of these amenities, and hopefully these situations will remind you of, so that you support that amendment when it is brought forward.
I suggested this with sidewalks a long time ago, and I didn't get any traction, but an ordinance amendment for a payment in lieu of providing open space to the Parks and Rec Department might encourage the development of some parks in the area. Vicki?
Mr. Chair, that's an ongoing discussion and maybe should take place when the property's being platted, so that depending upon the density they're bringing to the area, they're either setting aside parkland or payment in lieu. So that's discussions we have initiated, and some council members have shared even at city council level is we should start looking at this so that we do get that amenity. I did want to point out that, as we all know, Valley Drive in this area is in fairly rough condition, and this is going to put additional traffic onto that road. But Todd shared with us when he reviewed this item that there is a capital improvement project for 2027 that's going to be improving this part of Valley Drive, and we just wanted that to go in public record too, so in case anyone from the neighborhood is watching this, that they do recognize that we did share those comments when we reviewed it and recognize that we do have money set aside for that street improvement.
Thanks. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to say exactly what Mike said, and I'll keep it brief, but, you know, these developments just, I don't think it's too much to ask a developer to set aside a little bit of space for, you know, everybody involved, adults and children, you know, picnic area, gazebo, anything's better than nothing. And, you know, we're trying to squeeze the best bang for the buck on a plot of land. I get that. But at the same time, I just hope that the powers that be go in the direction, you know, in the future to maybe demand or require certain just community spaces, you know. I think we're becoming less of a community if we don't offer anything for you know, the public and the people to enjoy the space that they're living in. You know, homeowner has the luxury of a backyard, a shed, you know, private space, a deck. Apartment dwellers don't have that luxury, and I think anything that the developers could provide would be better than nothing at all. So that's just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Eric Heikus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some comments, but I would like to reserve them for the open comment session at the end of our meeting. I don't want my comments to be belaboring this effort. So,
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Mike and Kelly's discussion totally. I know the homeowners that live on the west side of Valley Drive have expressed their concern about some of the apartments, and when you look at that first picture and see the current apartments that are already built there and what that impact is for the homeowner that has never seen that before, it's got to be, you know, kind of disconcerting. But when you look at the current one that we're looking at is for 90 units, I believe you said. And when, like Kelly and Mike said, there's no amenities, but it's not just for that. There's already one down there, and if they could have combined the two, maybe we'd had better leverage to say, hey, you got 180 units now, which they really will be up there. But we take things as they come forward, and this is an isolated request, and so we can't really say all the things we want to say because of the other ones already completed. But I think in the future, if we know what's going to come forward, and we know there's going to be a lot of apartment buildings like this situated right where it's at, maybe at that point we can coerce them some more to try to do something better, because it is hard to say no to this because they're meeting the, you know, stipulations and stuff, or they're going to, but it still is disconcerting to those homeowners next door. So I just wanted to add that to it.
All right, other comments on item number 9? Motion? Anybody? All right, Mike Gallagher made the motion to approve item number 9 with the stipulations as listed.
I'll second it.
And Vince seconded that motion. Any comments on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That does take us to the end of our normal agenda item. Eric, it'll be a great time.
okay, I'm glad I didn't want to pester Ted with that one, but let's talk about Parks Department here as a group. We're talking about adding quality of life to medium density and high density residential we're talking about adding parks to around our community, and we're asking them to be the clearinghouse a lot of times for this growth, right? And yet we have vastly underfunded them as a community. I think if we're going to continue down this conversational path and this planning, we need to start getting some reality put in the budget for capital improvements and then operations of parks if we're going to continue growing as a community and then asking for these expansive facilities to bolster quality of life in our community. That means our community needs to commit more tax base and more resources to parks to achieve their goals, to do what we're asking them. Thank you.
All right, Vince?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. In regarding the quality of life for these apartment complexes, I think, again, it's important, having lived in apartments most of my life, that these community aspects of these apartments be taken into consideration. So yes, I would entertain an ordinance that was suggested. I do have another question about one of the items, and I don't want to elaborate, or I don't want to conflate any of these ideas, but there was a compromise from 10 feet to 12 feet. Is there any, and we don't like to do that during these, when it's brought in front of the commission, but what is reasonable in a situation like that? Where we have an ordinance that says 25 feet, they're at 10 feet, and they're meeting halfway at 12, if you will.
That's a heck of a question, Vince.
I know. And if
Well, I don't see
it's
going
loaded,
from 10 feet, if the requirement is 25, and they wanted 12, from 10 to 12, I don't see that as going 50%.
Yeah.
If their consultant would have stood up and said, we can provide you a 17-foot setback and preserve that swale, if there could have been some justification, but they were not, and I think you guys must have felt that too, or you wouldn't have made the decision that you made.
Right.
It's like, we're going to get what we want, or we're going to walk out of this room with a no, and they walked out of this room with a no.
And thank you, and that's where I was with it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that can someone explain to my satisfaction the purpose of that swale?
I'll defer to Todd.
Todd, we're putting you on the spot here. He's green though.
Basically just to get surface drainage away from the building and downstream. There's no magic to where it's located. It can be rerouted, around a building, but it's just local surface drainage is all it's addressing.
Okay, that's
So
what
it's
I thought.
pretty minor, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
John? Nope.
Thank you. So I wanted to just kind of piggyback off what Eric said about parks, and especially out in that area. So for years and years and years, we've had a lot of concerned citizens out there because if anybody knows, there are no parks in Rapid Valley. So, and when you get these new subdivisions that come in, I don't believe that we as a body should ever force developers into putting parks in. If we as a city want to work with the developers to put parks in, I think that works well. But once we start mandating these things, especially on apartment complexes, they move to Box Elder, they move to Somerset, they move to the places where they're not mandated to do it, especially if the costs don't work into their project, which as tight as everything is anymore, they usually don't. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for the city to work with the developers. And I'm just gonna give you a little bit of, I'm not gonna go too far down this path, but the city is working on a park out there right now. So, and I think in the very near future, there will be a park out in that area But we had to do that thinking out of the box, not by forcing people to do it, but by thinking how we could do that with the city, with different funds, you know, and how we can make that happen. So, you know, I agree with Eric that Parks is underfunded. I mean, it has been ever since I've been on the council. I think if people look back far enough, you can see where in 2011 and 12, the parks were defunded quite a bit at that point, and then it just never really came back. But again, I think that if we would untie the hands of our park and rec director, I think there's a lot of things that could be done. I'm very hopeful with the new mayor that a lot of things are going to change in the city. I'm hoping that we're going to start thinking, you know, more as we should be thinking currently and not thinking the way we were thinking 20 years ago. So I'm very hopeful for a lot of things that I think are going to happen in the future, and I think a lot of these concerns that we have, I think, can be taken care of by working together instead of trying to force people to do things. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, John. Nice to have the perspective of the council here. Is there any, oh, yeah. Vicki?
Yeah, just final comment on this. So, as you probably are aware, there are several larger projects that come forward that it seems like more and more often are bringing in TIF applications for some regional improvements that are needed. That has been a great tool for us to have those discussions, that if there is money available in that TIF for the developer to work with us to allocate some park land and maybe even enough money to bring forward some of those park improvements. And we're currently working with the developer right now over on the east side of Eltville Road in the Homestead Street area that may result in a city park. So as John mentions, we do have some tools in the toolbox where we do get the developer's attention and we can work together. In other instances, like these very simple plan developments that we just brought before you, it's required that they bring forward reasonable open space, or excuse me, usable open space. We need to just change the definition of what's usable. A strip of grass, who's going to use that? But you put a picnic table down, or some playground feature, or a horseshoe layout, and all of a sudden it becomes usable. So we've looked at what other communities have done, and they've got a far better description for what is usable open space. And just those little nudges, without coming in with the full park for the neighborhood, would at least give the children that are going to be in these apartments a safe place to play outside of the street. So we'll be bringing something forward and hopefully get your support. Now, if we're done with that conversation, I have finished updating our presentation on Planning 101. Most of you have had it. I know, Brooke, you were in our latest one. Alicia, you've not yet attended one. The new council are getting invited. We're aiming for about a month out. But if anybody else wants a refresher course, just let me know, and I'll certainly make sure that you're aware of that date as well. But it would be reviewing information that we've already reviewed. Just let me know if you're interested.
All right. Thanks, Vicki. I don't know who I went to. Haven? Maybe?
On the applications before us today, they were for setback requirements, and we approve one at least, and we denied a couple. I think we did a really good job of explaining the differences, and I know somebody looking in our minutes is going to say, well, you approve some and you deny some. So I think I do think we did a good job this morning, but I think it's important that we make it clear, the differences in those applications and why we seem to react to them differently.
Vince?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking, Haven, is that Vicki cleared up both of those, actually, in her last comments regarding the community spaces at these apartment complexes. That's where my thoughts are, and so I do appreciate you she clearing up both of those issues. Thank you.
Brooke?
Just quickly, I was just curious what maybe a better way to do this is. So I think it came up today that we were trying to compromise on the setback from 10 to 12 feet in the meeting. It happened when we were all worried about I think the view shed up on Skyline where they were putting the fence in or the barrier in, and they're like, well, we'll take it to 6 to 4, and it happens when we're up here, and I'm curious if there's a more preferred way to have those discussions. Is it that we not solve those up here, or is it, I mean, I think we all want to compromise and we all try to find a way to help, but sometimes it gets really uncomfortable. I'm like, well, who am I to say 2 feet's enough or it's not? So, when the staff says 25 is what it is, and they're like, we'll give you 2, I'm just curious, like, is it better form for us to just say, then go back to planning and work through the process again, or is it, let's figure it out up here?
Slippery slope. So
it felt like that. So
there are times when we want you to compromise in the meeting, and I think you did a great job of that today. Time is everything to these guys. They had an opportunity to make a different compromise. They could have asked that it be continued to consider it, but they wanted a hard and fast answer. And even though the discussion from you showed that you were going to be denying it, I don't think that the owner really believed that was going to happen. He just was not budging. If it's going to require, you'll hear me say, we can't land plan in this meeting. If we need a revised site plan, which is what we need for the garage on Pevins, so we continued that one for a month because we need a revised site plan. We've got to get it routed out, make sure that engineering and fire are okay with their safety and utility and drainage concerns. Planning needs to look at it to see, does it need a different variance? What is the oversize of it? We're not going to say, okay, let's make adjustments on that variance with those assumptions. We need it in front of us. But where they're just trying to pick a building up and move it, which they could have on the industrial site. They could have very easily, Shane could have said, we'll move it up to the swale. That would reduce our request from 10 feet to 17 or whatever. I mean, it would have fit. It would have fit nicely. They would have still met requirements to get in and out of those structures with backing, turning radii for vehicles, but there just wasn't any budge. So I think that you guys did everything you could. I know Kip was talking to them in the audience, trying to get them to compromise, and that wasn't the position that they took.
It just feels
It's
like
hard.
deal or no deal sometimes,
Yeah,
you're
it's
like,
hard.
oh my gosh. So I just wanted to see if there's a better way. Probably not, but it just, like, we get ourselves in a funny spot sometimes, I think.
And time is everything to these guys. If they're going to come in and get that building permit, they don't want to wait 2 weeks. They wanted it a month ago when they made the application. So, but that is a good reminder. When I reminded all of you, you've got options today. When that went on, we could have said, let's continue this and see if there's something different we could negotiate. I think they would have said, we need an answer today. And we've done that. And we've had the applicant say, no, it's give it to me or we're not doing the project this year.
Karen?
And thanks, Vicki, for some of that discussion. And for everyone up here, when the staff goes through and talks to these folks that are asking for variances or whatever they're asking for, staff does really try to talk to them. And when you know that it's not going to work or you don't think it's right and you want to deny it, you talk to them and say, think about a compromise. Think about something that could happen if the Planning Commission doesn't want to go forward with this. What would you be willing to do? And so some of that discussion's already taken place, and I appreciate that, because I know it's hard for staff to say no. You want to help the citizens as best you can. So I have a comment about the Valley Drive and the apartments that are there. A while back we did I don't know if it was a comprehensive plan or it was a plan where we looked at downtown streets and how you'd put the buildings right on the street or set them back, something like that. And we looked at pictures to see how that looked for the neighborhoods that are there. And I think we should have something like that in the future for apartments. I mean, if those apartments were set back a ways from the road, it wouldn't be quite so in your face. And I think that's something that we should take a look at, and I don't know if there's ways we can do that, you know, as far as a comprehensive plan or something like that, I don't know, but just for future thought, I mean, and especially for John, that he's here, that you talk to a lot of developers, and I think to be a good neighbor, to be something that makes the city look wonderful, it'd be much better to have something changed so it makes it look like a community rather than I'm just gonna use up all the space I can get. And that's what the neighborhood thinks about it. They just think, well, you're just money grabbing, and that's not, you know, and that's not a good thing, because a lot of people don't like developers for that reason. They don't think about the neighborhood so much. They think about what they can not just necessarily make, but what they can afford to put in there and how much they have to squeeze down to make that dollar. And I agree with that. I mean, that's part of their business, but if there's a way you can change it somehow to make it more friendly, I guess is my thought. So anyway, just for future thought, I thought.
Eric Hikas?
I have 2 comments. This is a great conversation, invigorating meeting today. Karen, Sarah did some really progressive work with the urban commercial zoning district in terms of when you do push up to edge of right-of-way, what you can do architecturally or facade or landscape-wise to make that a lesser impact, and I think that's a good reference. And then Brooke, and I wanted to add, I never really got to talk about the fence and, you know, on that project that we did up on Skyline, because that's one of our projects, but I do want to say 2 things. Number 1, I mean, we required them to do a shorter fence, right, because people were worried about view shed, and they're going to plant landscaping, because they can, that will definitely impact that view shed. So to say that we're requiring the view shed control by the fence, and then they're just going to turn right around and buffer that with the landscaping, and the trees are going to be 15 to 20 feet tall. So I don't think we really accomplished anything with that 2 feet of fence reduction. And then Mike Kwasny, I just wanted to add on to your comment at that meeting too, which was if people were on that fence, if people are going to climb on that fence, because that fence is on their property, that's an act of trespass. So, you know, then that would trigger police and that sort of thing if they wanted to. So just, I didn't want to push my luck up here that day, but those are the 2 responses I never really got to make, but just wanted to add that. So.
Mike Kwasny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that comment there, though, I actually didn't have a problem with them necessarily getting on that. It just makes it look like it's a turnoff. And that was the problem that I had, is that it made it look like it was, there's a lot of that area up there that is areas, and they were making it look like that, which promotes those kids going there. And that was the problem I had, you just got to look at what you promote. So I wanted to comment on Vicki. I think your group does an outstanding job of giving us options. I think that as far as, there were definitely options for them to put that shed on that project today. There were a lot of options. Snow removal is not something that you would consider. So I think it was a no-brainer, but they need to work with it. And as far as, Brooke, you made the comment about, we are all part of this community. We are people that are actually out there. And so we want to support that, and that sometimes they don't realize how we really want to support them. But we're given the parameter that we have to work within, and that's what our job is to get that parameter. And then the last thing I guess I hope that at some point, and I know, Vicki, you said we put it to bed, but I don't know if we ever put to bed the parks and the developers working together. I hope we can find a way to make that happen so that we do consider who is impacted by our decisions. It's not a matter of whether developers have to spend the money, and John, I agree totally. We can't, businesses shouldn't be required on some things, but I hope that we all look at what we're putting our children the space we're putting them into, and that we give them options to have an area to not go out and get in trouble. The reason you put kids in sports is hopefully they have things that they develop there, and if they're not involved in those kind of things, they sometimes find way to get involved in things that they shouldn't be in. So I guess I just hope we, as a community, figure out a way to combine the parks and the developers into a plan so that we take care of our kids. They're our future. So thank you.
All right, anything else or a motion to adjourn? Okay, Mike Gallagher made the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Vince seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Barely.
I have to apologize to Eric when I started to make that comment. I was going to say Eric, and I couldn't. The name just went gone. And I was like, the guy that spoke before, former person that spoke. I was like, I hate that. I mean, as soon as I, quit talking, I'm like, oh, can I